Hello, I'm Ryan Greger. This is going to be the first martial arts video for the site. It's the equipment video. Martial arts can be a very equipment-free or very equipment-intensive thing to train. This is an example of some of the equipment that I use from time to time. Depending on how much you want to get into it, that's going to determine how much equipment you need to buy. First and most important thing you need is a punching bag. This punching bag cost me $100. It's a fairly decent bag. The bottom of it has split a little bit, so one of the guys taped it for me. A good punching bag weighs 100 pounds at least. Don't waste your time with anything less than 100 pounds. It's canvas or leather or fake leather stuff, and it's got one seam. You don't need two seams on it. It'll have a logo, but some of them will have a logo that's like a plastic thing sewn on the top of the bag. Don't buy that. That plastic thing is an extra seam that makes the bag a little bit weaker over time, and it will cut up your hands if you box bare knuckle. You can also use a lot of makeshift stuff, like take a duffel bag and stuff it full of old t-shirts or something, or scraps of fabric, or even sand. I used that before. It can break your hands if you're not careful. Okay, so that's your punching bag. You're going to want it hung up so that it can spin. My swivel is a little stiff. And you're going to want it so you can walk 360 degrees all the way around it. There are some that hang up on frames that have metal bars that come down the sides like this. Those are not good bags. Well, the bag may be fine. The frame is not good. If you kick it, if you do a roundhouse kick and you miss by a little bit, you hit your toe on a metal bar that's supporting the bag, and that hurts. You can break your foot that way. Next, you're going to need something for your hands. If all you're doing is hitting the bag, you can get by with nothing more than a pair of garden gloves. When I start teaching, I'll have the person I'm teaching, I'll have them throw most of the punches in their first session bare knuckled, either on the bag or on the tie pads, which I'll show you later. After they throw maybe 20, 30 punches the first time, I'll take a look at their hands and I'll see which knuckles are red. Usually, it's these knuckles, the pinky finger through the middle finger. Those are the red ones. What you want is just the middle finger and the pointer finger, just these two knuckles. We'll explain why when we get into punch demo. So I'll at least start out without gloves. But then after you punch enough times, you're going to cut the skin off your hand. It gets soft, it gets blistered, and then if you keep punching after it blisters, you'll rip the top of the blister off and then you have an open sore. An open sore is not a big deal. Just paint it up with a little new skin, take a rest, wait for it to heal, and then go back to it. After you do that enough times, your hands will get where I can hit the bag for hours bare knuckled and I'll never even feel it, just because I've done it so much. However, what that will do is it'll make the knuckles that you hit with, and as you can see it on the camera, but these two and these two are significantly bigger than the rest, so they kind of have a knobby appearance. If you don't like that, well, then don't hit bare knuckle. If you don't want to get blisters and get those open sores, wear gloves. You can get by with garden gloves. All that does is protects your skin. Make sure they're fitting pretty well. They're not loose and kind of wrinkly. It'll protect your skin. It'll keep you from cutting it on the bag. The next step up would be your first serious glove investment. These are 3-ounce gloves, which put one on, even if it takes a while. They're a little small for me. As you can see, my fingers stick through, my thumb sticks through, so I have the use of my hands, but I have a little bit of padding over my knuckles, just a little bit. Not much, not enough to say so, really. It's not going to prevent the bruising and the the callus formation, but it will keep you from tearing your knuckles up as badly. So those are a good investment if you plan to hit the bag a lot. If you plan to hit for more than 2 or 3 hours a week, you definitely want to invest in some kind of bag gloves. I'd say lighter the better. That's my personal preference. Next up in the spectrum would be the 6-ounce gloves, 6 or 8-ounce gloves. These are the gloves that you would use for fighting in competition or even in training, sparring matches with your buddies and whatnot. Their padding is a lot thicker. This is the first glove in the spectrum that's designed not to protect your hand. It's designed to protect your opponent's face. So if you can see, the padding is significantly thicker than on this glove. You can see the difference here. But you still have the use of your fingers and you have the use of your thumb. So you can grapple, and you can choke, and you can joint lock, but you can still punch. Now, neither of these gloves is going to allow you to throw full strength, full speed punches at your buddies and not hurt them. That's just not how it works. What you will absolutely need if you plan on training at any school is a pair of 16-ounce gloves. These gloves have no fingers, all one piece like this, have a thumb, have some Velcro that wraps around like that, and that's it. You can't even, the thumb is actually sewn onto the hand like this, you can't even grab like this. It's not designed for grabbing, it's designed for training at boxing. So all you're going to do with this glove is hit. You can get 16 ounces that look like this, where it's relatively thin padding, maybe 3/4 of an inch, or you can get 16 ounces that look like pillows on your hand. If you get the big pillow kind, those are the kinds you need for if you really want to wail away on each other, if you and your buddy really want to hit each other, get the big, thick pillow-looking kind. If you're willing to put in a little bit of self-restraint and not knock each other out, then you can go with these kinds. They'll keep you from hurting each other really badly, but they will allow you to hit with, they'll allow you to hit like you mean it and make him feel it without hurting him. So you get in a realistic boxing match, but you won't have to knock each other out every day. Now, none of these gloves are going to protect your wrist. When you hit, your wrist comes under a lot of stress. If it's bent like this or like this, and you hit, you can flatten out your wrist like that, you can bend it backwards. This is the more common and also the most dangerous. So most boxers will use wraps. They take a long piece of cloth about 2 inches wide, 1.5 to 2 inches wide, and they wrap it around their wrists, wrap it around their fingers, so it makes a pad here, supports their wrist, so their wrist is essentially in a splint and it can't bend. I never do this. One, I never learned, when I was starting boxing and kickboxing, I never learned how to wrap, so I just never got into the habit of it. But I hit the bag for so many years without wraps that my wrists just don't bend. I can lock them in place and keep them from bending. That's just the way I figure it is. I hit the bag bare-knuckled without wraps because if I ever get into a fight, I'm not going to be wearing wraps, I'm not going to be wearing gloves, and I'm still going to have to hit somebody. So I gear my training towards fighting, towards street fighting, or fighting for self-defense, or fighting in Afghanistan or Iraq if I have to take somebody down there. I don't really worry about the ring. When the time comes and I need to step into the ring for training or something like that, I can put some wraps on and they won't really bother me all that much. I can put wraps and gloves on, no big deal. But if I train with nothing but wraps and gloves and then I get into a real fight and my wrist is not used to supporting itself, that's a problem. I don't know whether every other martial artist will feel that way, but that's just my philosophy on it. Next, you're going to have other equipment that's not gloves. In this case, I start, what I've got right here are the tie pads. These pads are fairly expensive. They're actually, I think maybe $60 a piece for this pair, which is a lot of money. And why would you charge them $60 a piece? Because nobody's ever going to buy just one. That would be stupid. But they're about 6 inches of padding. They cover my arm from elbow to hand, and I've got 2 straps and a handle. You hold them like this. Some people will turn their hand over and go through like that. I don't like to do that. It traps my hand and I feel like it takes away my strength. Not many people who are really experienced with it do that. So this is for when you're training with a partner. You have one guy holding the pads, 2 of them like this, and the other guy punches them. So you can punch here, you can punch here, you can hold them like this and kick. Maybe later on, after a while, I'll do some videos with a buddy to demonstrate how you use the tie pads. But for now, most of the videos are just going to be training solo. There's a lot of other equipment you can buy. You can buy jump ropes, you can buy weighted bands for your arms that are supposed to help you punch harder. You can buy, if you're going to do serious sparring, I suggest you buy headgear. It looks like a foam helmet that you wear. You can find it at nearly any sporting goods. If you're going to train at a school, they will require you to have a mouthpiece. It goes in your mouth, keeps your jaw shut. I don't really like them, mostly because they make it harder to breathe, and I don't train with them enough to be used to it. But they're good. They will keep you from breaking your jaw or your teeth as easily. What else can you buy? You can buy ankle weights. You can buy chest armor and groin protectors and all sorts of stuff. My theory on equipment, my philosophy on equipment, if you will, is that the equipment does not teach you how to fight. The equipment is just a tool. Use what is useful to you. If you can borrow it and try it out rather than buying it, that's probably the way to go. You can spend a lot of money on boxing equipment. I have spent a lot of money on boxing equipment, and I only use a very small percentage of it on a regular basis. Really, the only thing I use on a regular basis are this bag and these gloves. That's all I use on a regular basis. That's really all I use. That doesn't mean that that these are not a useful expenditure. I use these often enough to make them worthwhile. I have used these often enough to make them worthwhile. They helped me to get over that tearing my knuckles phase, so that once I tore my knuckles in a training session, I would put these on and then continue training, and they helped me to get through faster than I would have if I had just been doing it bare knuckle. So there are uses for everything. You have to evaluate, you as the man who's doing it has to evaluate what is worth my time and money. How much time am I actually going to put into it? How good am I actually trying to get? And what equipment is necessary. So, yeah, these are just suggestions. That's it.